Early one morning, a young, newlywed couple's doorbell rings. She's the only one up, but she's just getting ready for a shower. "Damn!" she says as she wraps a big towel around herself and rushes to the door. It's her husband's best friend, Bill. Upon seeing her in a towel, he blushes and sheepishly asks, "Is your husband home?" He is, but he's still sleeping. Oh. An awkward silence follows. Bill looks around to see if anyone is within sight and leans in a little closer. He quietly says, "I will give you $200. Right now, if you drop that towel." He holds $200 bills in his hand. She's initially taken aback, but considers for a few moments. As a newlywed couple just starting out, they could really use that money. She rolls her eyes and drops the towel. Bill's eyes linger over every inch of her naked body before he gives her the money and leaves. Her husband, bleary-eyed, comes downstairs. "Who was that?" he asks. Nervously, she answers, "Oh, it was just your friend Bill." "Hey, great!" he exclaims. "Did he give you the $200 he borrowed from me yesterday?" A priest and a nun are caught in a blizzard. They find a deserted cabin and take shelter. They find a sleeping bag, a bed, and a pile of blankets. The priest, being a gentleman, offers the nun the bed and takes the sleeping bag for himself. As they get tucked in for the night, the nun calls out, "Father, Father, I'm cold!" So the priest gets up and puts another blanket on the nun. "Is that better, sister?" he asks. "Yes, Father, much better," she replies. So he gets back in his sleeping bag and starts to nod off when she again calls out with, "Father, I'm still cold." So once again the priest gets up and puts another blanket on her, ensuring she is tucked into the bed well. "Is that better, sister?" he asks. "Oh yes, Father, that's much better," she says. So the priest gets himself back into the sleeping bag, and this time is just starting to dream when he wakes up to her call of, "Father, Father, I'm just so cold." The priest thinks long about this and finally says, "Sister, we are in the middle of nowhere in a blizzard. No one but you, myself, and the Lord himself will ever know what happens here this night. How about, just for this night, we act as though we were married?" The nun thinks on this for a minute. She can't help but admit to herself she's been curious, and finally answers with a tentative, "Okay, Father, just for tonight, we will act as though we are married." So the father replies, "Get up and get your own damn blanket, you cow," and rolls over to fall asleep. A social misfit walks into his local bar with a big grin on his face. "What are you so happy about?" asks the bartender. "Well, I'll tell you," replies the ugly guy. "You know I live by the railway. Well, on my way home last night, I noticed a young woman tied to the tracks, like in the movies. I, of course, went and cut her free and took her back to my place. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I scored big time. We made love all night, all over the house. We did everything, me on top, sometimes her on top." "Fantastic!" exclaimed the bartender. "You lucky dog. Was she pretty?" "I don't know. I never found her head." A husband and wife are traveling by car from Key West to Boston. After almost 24 hours on the road, they're too tired to continue, and they decide to stop for a rest. They stop at a nice hotel and take a room, but they only plan to sleep for 4 hours and then get back on the road. When they check out 4 hours later, the desk clerk hands them a bill for $350. The man explodes and demands to know why the charge is so high. He tells the clerk, although it's a nice hotel, the rooms certainly aren't worth $350. When the clerk tells him $350 is the standard rate, the man insists on speaking to the manager. The manager appears, listens to the man, and then explains that the hotel has an Olympic-sized pool and a huge conference center that were available for the husband and wife to use. "But we didn't use them," the man complains. Well, they are here, and you could have, explains the manager. He goes on to explain they could have taken him one of the shows for which the hotel is famous. The best entertainers from New York, Hollywood, and Las Vegas perform here, the manager says. But we didn't go to any of those shows, complains the man again. Well, we have them, and you could have, the manager replies. No matter what amenity the manager mentions, the man replies, but we didn't use it. The manager is unmoved, and eventually the man gives up and agrees to pay. He writes a check and gives it to the manager. The manager is surprised when he looks at the check. But sir, he says, this check is only made out for $50. That's correct, says the man. I charged you $300 for sleeping with my wife. But I didn't, exclaims the manager. Well, too bad, the man replies. She was here and you could have. It was halfway through the English lesson when Miss decided to test her class on spelling. I want everyone to tell me what their fathers do for a living and then spell it out to me. Johnny, what does your dad do? He's a farmer, miss. Okay, spell that, please. Farmer. Well done, Johnny. Now, Bob, how about you? He's a police constable, miss. Very well, please spell that out. Police. C-U-U. No, try again. C-U-S. No, you'll have to think carefully about this. Go and practice in your book. Who's next? Oh yes, Colin, what does your father do? He's a bookmaker, miss. Now, can you spell that for me, please? No, but I can give you 4 odds that Bob writes Kent's in his book. An old lady goes to the doctor and says, I have this problem with frequent gas. Fortunately, the farts never smell and are always silent. As a matter of fact, I've farted at least 10 times since I've been here. And I bet you didn't even notice, the doctor says. I see. Take these pills and come back next week. The next week, the old lady returns. Doctor, she says, I don't know what the heck you gave me, but now my silent farts stink like rotting fish. The doctor says, good. Now that we've cleared up your sinuses, let's work on your hearing. There is a tour bus in Egypt that stops in the middle of a town square. The tourists are all shopping at the little stands surrounding the square. One tourist looks at his watch, but it's broken, so he leans over to a local who is squatting down next to his camel. What time is it, sir? He asks. The local reaches out and softly cups the camel's genitals in his hand, then raises them up and down. It's about 2 o'clock, he says. The tourist can't believe what he just saw. He runs back to the bus, and sure enough, it's 2 o'clock. He rushes back and tells a few of the fellow tourists, the man can tell the time by the weight of the camel's genitals. One of the doubting tourists walks back to the local and asks him the time. The same thing happens. Finally, the bus driver wants to know how it's done. He walks over and asks the local how he knows the time from the camel's genitals. The local says, sit down here and grab the camel's genitals. Genitals? Now, lift them up in the air. Okay, now, look underneath them to the other side of the courtyard where that clock is hanging on the wall.